Chapter 1. Pretty sure this is a crime. The hallway was quiet, suspiciously quiet. Alaric squinted at the email on his phone one more time, just to be sure he hadn't misread it for the fifth time. Delivered. Your package has been left at your door, apartment 10B. Except he lived in 10A, and 10B belonged to the smug, soul-sucking demon next door. Alaric shoved his phone into the pocket of his oversized hoodie and stormed down the hallway in his flamingo slippers, each step squeaking indignantly against the polished concrete. He clutched a spatula in one hand. Not because it was threatening, but because it was what he happened to be holding when he opened the delivery notification, and rage had overridden any need to arm himself more sensibly. He didn't even hesitate before slamming his fist against Cassin's door. 3 loud knocks, a dramatic pause, then one more, just for flair. The door swung open far too gracefully, revealing Cassin, lounging shirtless in a pair of low-slung joggers, an espresso in one hand and a lazy smirk already blooming on his unfairly gorgeous face. Alaric, he said, like they were old friends instead of sworn hallway enemies. Back again? Alaric blinked. His eyes dropped to the package sitting neatly on the counter behind Cassin, his package. Clearly unopened, clearly not even remotely subtle. Also, clearly full of LED banana socks and artisanal beard balm that were not meant for a man whose skincare routine probably consisted of mirror winks and chaos. That, Alaric hissed, stabbing his spatula in the direction of the counter, was addressed to me. Cassin didn't even look. He sipped his espresso with the kind of smug elegance usually reserved for Bond villains and baristas who refuse to learn your name. Must have been a mistake, Cassin said, shrugging one shoulder. These things happen. They happen twice a week, Alaric shouted, stepping into the doorway like the sheer force of his anger might burn the place down. I'm not crazy. I triple-checked. And before you say anything, no, I didn't misread the number. Yes, it was 10A. And yes, I want my banana socks. Cassin set his espresso down, completely unbothered, and leaned against the doorframe with the kind of effortless confidence that made Alaric want to commit light arson. You could just say you missed me, Cassin said, voice smooth as sin, instead of sending beard balm as a cry for help. Alaric made a strangled noise. I did not send you beard balm. Who the hell even says that? Cassin raised his eyebrows and stepped back slightly, gesturing inside with the world's most obnoxious wave. Well, come in and take it then. Or are you afraid I've cursed it? Alaric huffed past him into the apartment, internally cursing every single decision that had led him to rent next to the world's most aggravatingly attractive architectural menace. Cassin's apartment, as usual, was neat to the point of serial killer aesthetic. Clean lines, black everything. Of course, it was perfect. Of course, it smelled like cedarwood and expensive lotion. He snatched the package from the counter and held it up with as much scorn as a man holding banana-themed socks could muster. You know what? This is the last time. Oh? Cassin asked, folding his arms, the muscles in his chest doing absolutely unnecessary things. Are you breaking up with me already? Alaric let out an unhinged laugh. You wish. I'm gonna fix this the only way I know how. Cassin tilted his head, intrigued. Passive-aggressive sticky notes? Worse, Alaric whispered. Petty glitter vengeance. And with that, he turned on his heel and stormed out of Cassin's apartment, flamingo slippers squeaking furiously all the way back to 10A. Later that day, Zara, Alaric's desk mate at the luggage company, looked up from her screen and blinked at him. Wait, back up, she said, holding her boba tea like it was holy. You said he stole your package again? Alaric stabbed his salad angrily. He's been doing it for months. And your solution is a glitter bomb. A deluxe glitter bomb, Alaric corrected, proud. I upgraded to the one that also smells like synthetic cupcakes. Zara sipped her drink. I am aroused and afraid. He looked smug. It's already in the mail, she stared. To your own building. I addressed it to myself with delivery instructions to leave it with my hot neighbor if I'm not home. Sweet chaos. It's time he suffered, Alaric said solemnly. I just hope it sticks to his stupid eyelashes. The following afternoon, Miss Dottie was already outside her door when the mailroom delivery guy, who Alaric had bribed with banana bread, handed off the glitter bomb. Oh, that's going to be fun, she murmured with the delight of a woman who had lived through 4 wars and knew good entertainment when she saw it. 10 minutes later, a muffled bang echoed through the hallway. Alaric peeked out of his peephole with wild anticipation, barely containing a grin. Through the tiny lens, he watched as Casson opened his door slowly, covered head to toe in gold glitter, blinking in stunned silence as sparkles floated around him like festive pollen. Miss Dottie clapped from across the hall. Casson didn't even flinch. He just raised his phone, took a selfie, then typed something with sparkling fingers. A second later, Alaric's phone buzzed. "Build he proposed. I said yes." Photo. Attached, glitter-drenched Casson, shirtless, with an expression halfway between help me and marry me. The chat exploded. About damn time. I knew they were in love. Wait, are they married? Or, Zara, holy shit, he's owning you, Arn. Don't worry, everyone. The wedding will be BYOB. Bring your own banter. Also, glitter is forever. Just like our love. Alaric's jaw dropped. He stared at the screen, then at his door, then back at the screen. "Pretty sure this is a crime," he whispered. From outside, he heard Casson laugh softly through the wall, and Alaric realized, with the quiet horror of someone realizing they've poked a lion with a very shiny stick, this wasn't over. It had just begun. Chapter 2. I Said It to Win, Not to Wed. Alaric had seen chaos in many forms: Black Friday in downtown retail, Zara before her 9 a.m. iced coffee, the luggage warehouse after a flash sale of glitter-studded duffel bags, but nothing compared to the group chat after Casson's glitter selfie and proposal. The notifications were a blur of emojis, memes, and messages ranging from "OMFG finally" to "Wait, are they seriously married, or is this performance art?" Alaric scrolled through the flood of messages with wide eyes and a single, dry thought. I need to move. Or fake my death. Possibly both. And then, as if summoned by the sheer force of unhinged energy, Miss Dottie knocked at his door. She stood there holding a round cake with "Congrats on the chaotic love" scrawled in red icing that looked like it had been piped mid-earthquake. "I had this in the freezer just in case," she said brightly. Alaric blinked. "You what?" "Been rooting for you two since the day he borrowed sugar, and you called him a 6-foot walking ego trip with a smug face." She winked. "You kids are spicy. Now eat this and tell him he can't wear shoes in your apartment unless he proposes properly." She left before he could respond. The cake was disturbingly good. Back at work, Zara looked like a cat who just discovered her human had a secret OnlyFans. "I'm sorry," she said, sipping aggressively on her triple-shot mocha. "He proposed via group chat? Covered in glitter?" "He joked," Alaric hissed, slumping into his chair and knocking over a sample travel pillow. "It wasn't real." Zara raised an eyebrow. "The cake on your Instagram says otherwise." "That was Miss Dottie." "I bet it was," she said dryly. "Listen, you wanted to out-petty him? This is it. You lean in. You milk it." Alaric narrowed his eyes. "What does that even mean?" "It means you fake the hell out of this marriage, win the building's cutest couple contest, claim the prize, and destroy him emotionally with affection. Hit him where it hurts, his smug little architect heart." Alaric paused. "There's a contest?" "Oh, honey," she said, grinning. "There's always a contest." That night, Alaric opened the door to find Casson standing there with a duffel bag, a tray of iced lattes, and a smile that looked like trouble in a leather jacket. "Hey, husband. I will end you," Alaric said. "Sure," Casson replied, stepping inside. "But first, should we talk strategy?" Alaric blinked. "For what?" Casson tossed the duffel on the couch and handed him a flyer. "The Kensington Couple Off. Win a year of free takeout, your photo in City Dwellers Monthly. Theme, domestic bliss. Subtext, prove your relationship isn't just petty performance art." Casson tapped the flyer. "Let's win it." Alaric stared at him. "You want to fake a marriage just to win a gift card and a feature in a magazine that once called my hallway vaguely threatening?" Casson smirked. "You said you wanted revenge. Let's really commit." Alaric, emotionally compromised, holding a latte he didn't remember accepting, and still wearing flamingo slippers from the glitter bomb incident, nodded slowly. "Fine, but I get the last word in every interview. No promises." Day 1 of domestic hell. Casson moved in with the efficiency of a man who had either done this before or just loved breaking the laws of personal space. Within an hour, he had reorganized Alaric's spice rack alphabetically, lined his shampoo bottles by height, and labeled the fridge shelves by date color coding. Alaric retaliated by replacing every single one of Kaysen's black shirts with neon crop tops that said things like husband material and certified menace. Kaysen wore one to the mailroom, on purpose. The building chat lost its collective mind. Meanwhile, passive-aggressive labels began to appear on everything. Not yours, demon. Not for touching. Yes, I mean you. Mine. Mine. Still mine. Entire drawer of socks. If you eat this, I'll report you to God. Leftover lasagna. But then there were moments that snuck up on Alaric and stayed. Like the night Kaysen made pasta and played cheesy music while Alaric ranted about a client demanding rhinestone-studded luggage. Or the afternoon they collapsed on the floor laughing after Alaric accidentally superglued their couple photo into the wall calendar. Or how Kaysen always brought home an extra donut even when Alaric said he didn't want one. Moments like that. The photo shoot for the contest started with tension and ended in a stupid kind of comfort. Kaysen had brought props, a fake breakfast tray, matching mugs that said grumpy and still grumpy, and a throw blanket so soft Alaric kept accidentally cuddling it instead of glaring properly. The photographer, who was clearly only there for the gossip, instructed them to act like they actually liked each other. Alaric, in an act of treason, smiled. Genuinely. They did a mock cuddle for the camera, Kaysen sitting on the couch, Alaric lying across it, his head on Kaysen's chest. Just for the photo, Kaysen whispered, his breath warm in Alaric's hair. Obviously, Alaric whispered back. His hand stayed there too long. They blinked, and it was 2 hours later. The camera was off, the lights dim, the apartment quiet. They had fallen asleep like that. Together. No cameras. No fake. Just them. That night, Alaric woke up groggy, head still tucked against Kaysen's chest, the scent of cedar and espresso grounding him in the dark. Kaysen stirred slightly, still half asleep, arm tightening around him. Then, in a drowsy murmur, he breathed it out, Ricky. Alaric froze. Ricky. No one called him that. No one could. It was something his grandma used to say before she passed, something only people who really knew him ever used. Alaric lay there wide-eyed, heart-thudding, throat dry. He didn't know what hurt more, that Kaysen had said it, or that it felt like the softest truth he hadn't let himself believe. Kaysen shifted again, lips brushing against Alaric's temple as he whispered into sleep. Alaric didn't move. He just lay there, in a fake marriage, wearing someone else's hoodie, listening to someone else's breath, and wondering when the pretending had stopped. Chapter 3. Why are you weirdly good at this? Their fake honeymoon album was, by all definitions, deranged. It began with Kaysen dragging Alaric to the rooftop garden in matching floral shirts and sunglasses so oversized they could pick up satellite signals. Alaric had protested loudly and creatively, but by the time they were 10 photos in, one featuring Kaysen dramatically fake proposing with a ring pop and Alaric mock sobbing, he was wheezing with laughter. I swear to God, Alaric said between snorts, if we get sponsored by a honeymoon resort because of this, I'm going to legally marry you out of spite. Please, Kaysen said, smirking. At least take me to dinner first. The post went live that night. A carousel of ridiculous images captioned, "We said I do to chaos and sunburns, honeymoon havoc." It was supposed to be funny. Fake. For the contest, for the group chat. But the last picture, the accidental one, went viral. It was a forehead kiss. Not staged, not posed. Caught by Zara mid-click as Kaysen leaned in too close to whisper something, and Alaric had tilted his head just so, closing his eyes like he trusted the moment without realizing he had. The comments were a mix of, "This looks too real to be fake?" "The forehead kiss is when I knew they were in love." "Tell me this isn't fanfiction come to life." Alaric read them all at 2 a.m., curled on the couch in one of Kaysen's shirts, holding his phone like it might bite him. He turned his head. Kaysen was asleep beside him, one arm slung across the back of the couch like he belonged there. Alaric told himself it was all good acting, but his heart didn't seem convinced. The next day, Kaysen declared it was time for domestic content. "Cooking together," he said, tossing Alaric an apron that read, "Kiss the chef or else." "It's what the algorithm wants." Alaric narrowed his eyes. "You're disturbingly into this." Kaysen winked. "Just trying to win." They filmed in the kitchen, Alaric chopping vegetables with dramatic commentary, Cassin stirring sauce like it was a sacred ritual. They bickered over the definition of al dente, insulted each other's playlists, and fought over the last piece of garlic bread. But halfway through, when Cassin leaned in and offered him a bite of pasta on a fork, something shifted. Alaric opened his mouth automatically. Took the bite. Cassin smiled, and it felt real. Too real. From then on, the dinners weren't just for content. They became a thing. Routine. Comforting. Cassin would start a pot boiling when Alaric was on his way home. Alaric would bring home stupid flavored sodas for taste tests and accidentally fall asleep on the couch while Cassin made dessert. Neither of them acknowledged it, but they both knew exactly which spatula the other preferred. And Alaric started noticing things. How Cassin hummed when he was happy, off-key and under his breath. How he always wiped his hands on a towel twice before touching the stove. How he smelled like cinnamon, leather, and just a hint of trouble. And worse, how his hand always lingered a second too long. It was maddening. It was addictive. Then came the missing dog. Alaric had just stepped out to throw away some recycling when he nearly tripped over a frantic neighbor, panting in near tears. "Button's gone," she wailed. Button was a tiny white gremlin masquerading as a dog. She belonged to apartment 7A and had the personality of a caffeinated dictator. Alaric turned just in time to see Cassin, shirt half-buttoned, hair messy, sipping iced coffee, step into the hallway. "What's going on?" "Button escaped," Alaric said. "Apparently she's decided to bring chaos to the neighborhood." "Finally," Cassin said, grinning. "A worthy opponent." They searched the block for an hour, yelling her name, arguing about leash laws, blaming each other for absolutely everything. "Who names a dog Button?" Alaric snapped. "Who buys banana socks?" Cassin shot back. But when they found Button tangled in someone's garden hose, wet and shivering, they didn't speak. Cassin crouched to scoop her up gently. Alaric offered his jacket. Their hands brushed. And for a moment, neither of them pulled away. They walked back quietly, holding hands. No one mentioned it. Later that week, a new storm hit. The Who's Hotter challenge, started, obviously, by Zara, who posted side-by-side selfies of the two of them in the building chat and captioned it, "Only one bed. Who do you choose?" The chaos was instant. Polls, hashtags, wild debates, a rogue Reddit thread. Dottie turned it into a bracket. The gym guy from 9C posted a shirtless pic of both of them and said, "Why not both?" Alaric refused to lose. He staged a photo shoot with Zara, wore his tightest button down, tousled his hair like a shampoo commercial, and posted a smirking selfie with the caption, "Your husband could never, unless he's me." Cassin responded with a full body shot in sweatpants and no shirt, holding a paint roller, sweat on his collarbone, smirk in full effect. Alaric nearly dropped his phone. The final vote tally? Alaric 51.3%. Cassin 48.7%. Alaric printed the screenshot and taped it to the fridge. Cassin sulked adorably for 2 days. On Friday, Jules visited. She was tall, sharp-eyed, with a motorcycle helmet under one arm, and the energy of a woman who had seen everything and judged it accordingly. She and Cassin hugged like siblings. Alaric, mid-coffee, watched awkwardly from the kitchen. Jules arched a brow at him. "So, you're the drama goblin." "I prefer emotionally intelligent hurricane mouth, but sure," she smirked. "You're cute. Tell that to the people who think I'm holding Cassin hostage for clout." "Oh, honey," Jules said, glancing toward the living room where Cassin was trying to untangle Button from his shoelaces. "He's never looked this happy." Alaric's breath caught. He laughed it off, said something sarcastic, changed the subject, but the words stuck, like a burr under the skin. That night, Alaric came home late from work. Cassin had left a note on the fridge. "Lasagna's in the oven. Try not to set anything on fire, Ricky." Alaric rolled his eyes, heated the food, and wandered toward Cassin's office/sketch corner at the edge of the living room. He wasn't snooping. He was wandering with intent. The sketchbook was open. What he saw made him stop breathing. It was a pencil sketch of the living room couch. Curled on it, drawn with soft, intimate lines, was himself. Asleep, arms wrapped around a pillow. And next to him, drawn just as gently, was Cassin, head tilted toward Alaric, their legs tangled. It was them. Together. Warm. Safe. Real. Alaric stood there for a long time, heart thudding, unable to move. Behind him, Cassin walked in. Alaric turned slowly. Cassin saw what he was looking at. rubbed the back of his neck. "It's just a reference," he muttered. "Sure," Alaric said softly, voice catching. But his heart was already doing something deeply stupid. "I never wanted the packages." There was too much touching. That was the problem. That was the line. And Kassan? He crossed it like it owed him rent. It started with the casual shoulder bumps in the kitchen, then brushing knees during TV marathons. Then his shirt, always mysteriously missing after showers like the fabric had vaporized on principle. Alaric would find himself wandering into the living room, only to be greeted by Kassan lounging on the couch shirtless, reading architectural journals, like he didn't know what his abs were doing to the room temperature. "Put a damn shirt on," Alaric snapped one morning, clutching his cereal like a shield. "I would," Kassan said, not looking up, "but you shrink everything I own. That was one time and your shirts deserved it." A smirk. "Well, my nipples thank you." Alaric choked on a spoonful of granola and nearly died. The tension crept in like smoke. From missed glances to lingering silences. From breathless pauses in doorways to accidental brushes of fingers when reaching for the same mug. It was starting to feel like a game of chicken where the loser had to admit he wanted more. And Alaric was losing. That night, he woke up in a sweat. He dreamt of Kassan. Not just his smirk or his bare chest, or the way he looked after showering with a towel slung low enough to threaten Alaric's sanity. No. This dream was worse. It had been sweet. Kassan had kissed his forehead, whispered something soft. Alaric had held his hand in public like it mattered. It was terrifying. He got out of bed, padded into the kitchen in a hoodie and boxers, trying to shake the ghost of warmth from his skin. And there Kassan was, leaning against the counter, eating straight from the tub of cookie dough ice cream, shirtless again like the concept of fabric personally offended him. "You good?" Kassan asked, voice still gravel from sleep. "No," Alaric said before he could lie. Kassan raised an eyebrow. "Want to talk about it or glare at me until I feel unsafe?" Alaric crossed the room in 3 fast, furious steps. The air between them sparked like a fuse. "I have a question," he said, voice low, jaw clenched. "Shoot." "Why?" His voice cracked. He pushed through it. "Why did you keep taking my stuff?" Kassan blinked. Then for once his face softened into something raw. Something real. "Because," he said quietly, "it was the only excuse I had to see you." The silence was louder than any argument they'd ever had. Alaric's heart twisted. Everything inside him buckled and reformed in that single second. Because of course it wasn't about the packages. Of course it was always more. And now that he had the answer, he didn't know what to do with it. He pulled back hard. Over the next few days, Alaric reestablished rules. Separate toothpaste, separate laundry baskets, separate toothbrush holders, labeled "Don't Touch This Casanova." He made a chart titled "Boundaries Are Hot" and taped it to the fridge. Kassan laughed for a full minute, but it didn't help. Kassan still looked at him like he meant something, still made him coffee in the morning, still hummed softly while sketching, still brushed their fingers together when passing plates. And Alaric still wanted to kiss him so badly it hurt. So when the building hosted a wedding reception in the downstairs event room for a couple from 4C, Alaric did the only reasonable thing. He got very drunk. Kassan didn't. Which made it worse. The music was loud, the food was decent, the alcohol was plentiful. And the moment someone asked, "So how did you two meet?" Alaric barely had time to brace himself before Kassan answered. "I annoyed the hell out of him," Kassan said smoothly, hand resting on Alaric's lower back like it belonged there, "until he couldn't imagine life without me." Everyone awed. Alaric stared at his drink like it had personally betrayed him. Later in their apartment, the music still echoing faintly through the floor, Alaric turned to find Kassan watching him. There was no teasing in his expression this time. No smirk, no challenge, just honesty. "Kiss me," Kassan said softly. "If you don't want it, tell me to stop." Alaric didn't. He crossed the room, slow but sure, until they were chest to chest. Their mouths met, hesitant at first, then hungry. The kiss deepened, turned messy, turned needy, hands fisted in shirts, breath hitched. Alaric pushed Kassan back against the counter, lips tasting every secret he'd tried to deny. They broke apart just long enough for Kassan to whisper against his mouth, "This doesn't feel fake anymore." Alaric didn't answer. He kissed him again instead. This time it was fire. Clothes came off in gasps. The couch became a battlefield of limbs and laughter. Fingers trembled on skin like it was sacred. Kassan touched him like he already knew every scar and still wanted more. They didn't talk. They didn't have to. Not until afterward, when they lay tangled and breathless, Alaric's head resting against Kassan's chest, the rhythm of his heartbeat saying things neither of them were brave enough to voice. In the morning, Alaric woke up alone. The couch was warm. The air smelled like Kassan. The blanket was half kicked off, and Alaric did what he always did when things felt too close. He panicked. He got up, got dressed, cleaned, scrubbed the dishes, rearranged the spice rack out of spite. Kassan walked in half an hour later, towel around his waist, hair wet, blinking sleep from his eyes. Alaric didn't look at him. "Morning," Kassan said softly. "Hey," Alaric replied, too quickly. Neither mentioned the night before. Neither acknowledged the ache, and as Alaric moved to the opposite end of the apartment, heart-hammering, he told himself the lie he needed to survive. It was just part of the act. Chapter 5. It was never just a game. The air had changed. Kassan wasn't cold, not exactly. He still cooked dinner, still made coffee the way Alaric liked it, still wore ridiculous neon socks with passive-aggressive pride, but something under his surface had gone quiet. The teasing had dulled. The smirks didn't linger as long. And when they passed in the hallway or brushed hands in the kitchen, Kassan pulled back quicker than he used to. It wasn't distance so much as restraint. And it hurt. Alaric felt it like a missing limb, like a favorite sweatshirt you suddenly realized you'd lost weeks ago. And yet, they still pretended. The final round of the cutest couple contest came and went. They submitted their entries. Photos of shared coffee mugs, a video of Kassan hugging Alaric from behind while he cooked, a shot of them laughing on the couch with their bare feet tangled under a blanket. They won. Of course they did. Free takeout for a year, a spot in City Dwellers Monthly. A gold-foiled certificate that Miss Dottie immediately tried to frame and hang in the hallway. Everyone celebrated. Except Alaric. He smiled, he laughed, he even let Kassan kiss his cheek for the cameras. But inside he was unraveling. Because every time Kassan touched him, it felt like something that was about to end. The rooftop party was Zara's idea. "You both need to act like humans," she'd said. "Drinks. Music. Normal people stuff. No labels. No group chat. Just vibes." The rooftop twinkled with string lights and half-drunk bottles of cheap wine. Friends from the building laughed and danced. Someone was trying to play Careless Whisper on a saxophone, and the mood was unhinged enough to be survivable. Alaric kept close to the food table, nursing his third hard seltzer and trying not to stare across the space at Kassan. Kassan, in a dark button-down and jeans that should be illegal, was talking with Jules. Alaric couldn't hear much over the noise until he caught it. A single line, said low but not low enough. "It started as a joke, but it was never fake for me." Alaric froze. His stomach flipped. His chest twisted. He turned, walked downstairs, and started packing. Back in the apartment, Alaric moved like he was being chased. He threw clothes into a suitcase with no organization. Folded nothing. Shoved the framed photo of him and Kassan into a drawer without looking at it. He was halfway through disconnecting his phone charger when the door slammed open. Zara stood there with a grocery bag, and from it she pulled... "A baguette?" Alaric asked, baffled. She hit him with it. Hard. "Ow!" "Shut up," she snapped. "You're not running away." "I'm not." "You're in love, moron." Alaric's jaw worked, but no words came. Zara crossed her arms. "You think I don't see it? You think the rest of us didn't notice the way you look at him like he's the last goddamn sunrise on Earth?" "I didn't mean to," Alaric whispered. She softened. A little. "Well, you did. So deal with it." He sat down. The bag half-zipped. His heart in his throat. "I don't know how," he said finally. "It wasn't supposed to be real." Zara crouched beside him. "But it is. So go be real, too." Kassan found him 10 minutes later, standing in the doorway. Quiet. Alaric looked up, startled, still sitting on the floor with the half-packed bag and a red mark on his arm from the baguette. Kassan's voice was calm. Too calm. "You leaving?" "I was," Alaric muttered. Kassan walked inside, closed the door behind him, didn't come closer. "You should have told me." "I didn't know what to say." "How about the truth?" Alaric stood, voice rising. "The truth that I kissed you like I meant it? That I liked hearing you call me Ricky like you belonged in that part of my life?" His voice cracked. That I slept beside you and couldn't sleep without you anymore? Kassan swallowed hard. Yes. Well, I didn't know how, Alaric shouted. I didn't mean to fall for you. Silence. Kassan stepped forward, slowly, carefully, then soft as a confession, then fall on purpose. Alaric's breath hitched. Kassan looked at him, really looked at him, like he was memorizing the moment. You don't have to be afraid, Kassan said. We don't have to pretend anymore. You're already mine. Alaric moved first. The kiss wasn't sweet this time. It was messy. It was urgent. All hands and mouths and apologies made with teeth and lips instead of words. Kassan backed him into the wall. Alaric pulled his shirt over his head. Kassan groaned into his mouth, lifting him slightly off the ground. They stumbled to the bedroom, half-dressed and fully undone, the bag forgotten in the living room. That night, they didn't fake anything. No camera, no script. Just them. Hands mapped out skin like familiar territory. Mouths explored every whispered insecurity, every broken promise, every secret wish. Kassan kissed down Alaric's neck and said, You were never a joke. Alaric whispered back, I never wanted it to be. Their bodies moved together like they'd been built for this. Like everything before was just waiting for this night to make sense. And when it was over, they stayed tangled in each other, breathing, laughing softly, quiet, safe. Real. Chapter 6. Still married out of spite? The morning light was annoyingly perfect. It spilled through the half-open blinds in golden streaks, catching on the dust motes dancing lazily in the quiet air. Somewhere in the apartment, a lo-fi playlist hummed low, the bass gentle enough not to disturb the world that had narrowed itself down to this one moment. Alaric stood in the kitchen, barefoot, wearing one of Kassan's shirts, soft, too big, and smelling like cedar and coffee and something dangerously comforting. His curls were a mess, his legs were sore, and there was a half-drunk mug of coffee warming his hands. He looked like he might die of happiness. Or maybe disbelief. Because Kassan was at the stove, whistling off-key, making pancakes shaped like hearts and flipping them with alarming precision. Shirtless, smug, and fully aware of the chaos he caused just by existing in that kitchen. Alaric leaned against the counter, sipping slowly, blinking sleep from his eyes. You're insufferable, he mumbled, not moving. Kassan glanced over his shoulder, dimple flashing. Good morning to you too, husband. Alaric choked on his coffee. Don't call me that. But we're still married, Kassan said sweetly, flipping another pancake. Out of spite, remember? Alaric groaned and threw a spoon at him. Kassan dodged it with a laugh. By 11, their apartment was full of neighbors, noise, and far too many mimosas. They were hosting the cutest couple brunch, a condition of their contest win, and an excuse for everyone to gossip in person instead of over the group chat. Miss Dottie was the first to arrive, wearing a sequin just married again sash and wielding a wrapped present the size of a small microwave. This is for you too, she said grandly, handing it over. Took me 3 weeks and several bottles of wine. Alaric raised an eyebrow. Kassan, suspiciously quiet, helped her unwrap it. Inside was a scrapbook, handmade, over the top, entitled in glitter glue letters. Enemies to soulmates, a messy love story. Alaric stared. Oh no. I documented everything, Dottie said proudly. From the first spatula fight to the glitter bomb. Even included screenshots of the group chat. Kassan turned a page and burst out laughing. Oh my God, this is the one where I said he proposed and everyone believed it. Because he did, Dottie chirped. Alaric looked heavenward. I'm moving out. No, you're not, Kassan said, grinning. Zara arrived next, already 2 mimosas deep and dragging her new girlfriend, who worked in taxidermy and smiled like she kept secrets in her purse. You're grossly domestic now, Zara told Alaric, poking him with a fork. You used to be fun and full of vengeance. I'm still full of vengeance. Sure, she said, and now you're also full of post-coital glow. Kassan walked by just in time to offer her a mimosa. He glows prettiest when I win arguments. Zara rolled her eyes. I still think you're both emotionally unstable. Correct, Alaric muttered, then took a massive bite of croissant to stop himself from smiling too much. At the peak of the brunch, with everyone gathered around the coffee table eating pancakes and making bets on how long the marriage would last, Kassan stood up and raised his glass. To spite, he said. And to staying married, Alaric choked. The group cheered. I mean, Kassan added with a wink, it's convenient. I get free food, half a closet, and a husband who glares at me like he's already planning my murder. Alaric picked up a croissant and lobbed it at his head. It bounced off Kassan's cheek. He didn't even flinch. "That's love," someone whispered reverently. Later, after the guests had filtered out and the leftover mimosas were stored in mason jars for emergencies, the apartment fell back into stillness. Alaric sat on the couch, legs curled under him, flipping through the scrapbook with a kind of amused horror. Kassan joined him without a word, settling beside him like he belonged there. And maybe he did. They read through the pages together, laughing at the sticky notes Dottie had somehow obtained, the printed screenshots of Zara's hotness poll, and the photos from their fake honeymoon. "You look disgustingly into me in this one." Kassan murmured, "I was drunk." "You were not. I was emotionally compromised." "You're in love with me," Kassan said. Alaric didn't respond. Instead, he closed the book, set it on the table, and stood up. Kassan followed him, quiet, curious, as Alaric crossed to the living room center, turned, and held out his hand. "Dance with me," Alaric said. There was no music playing, no crowd watching, just dust in the sunbeams and a tension that had long since turned into something softer. Kassan took his hand. They moved slowly, clumsily, foreheads touching. Alaric rested his cheek against Kassan's shoulder, his fingers twisting in the hem of Kassan's shirt. For once there were no jokes, no petty remarks, just silence. Until Kassan whispered, "So, still married out of spite?" Alaric pulled back just enough to look up at him. His voice, when it came, was quiet. "Sure. No," he said. "I think I'm just in love now." Kassan smiled and kissed him. They ended up on the couch. Again. Tangled. Kissing like they meant it, which, now, was the only way they ever kissed. When Alaric pulled back, breathless and flushed, he smirked. "You're still annoying, though." Kassan grinned. "You love that about me." Alaric rolled his eyes, but didn't deny it. The door buzzed. A package delivery. Kassan didn't move. Alaric groaned. "You know it's mine." "Probably. You're gonna steal it." Kassan stretched like a cat and said, "You missed me, huh?" Alaric threw a pillow at him, but later, when he opened the box and found his own favorite cologne, along with a note that read, "Told you I know what you like," he didn't even pretend to be mad. He just smiled and ordered another package. Just to make sure Kassan had an excuse to steal it. Just to hear him say it again.